When we think of the American Civil War, we usually picture lines of infantry, thundering cavalry charges, and generals on horseback. But today, on American Railroads Project, I want to talk about the impact the Baltimore and Ohio Railway had on the Civil War. Chartered on the 4th of July, 1828, the B&O had expanded across 13 states by the time the war broke out. During the war, it was a lifeline for the Union Army, and it was a key target, in turn, for the Confederate Army. Even before the first official shots were fired at Fort Sumter, the B&O was on the front lines. In 1859, abolitionist John Brown led his famous raid on Harpers Ferry, Virginia, a critical junction where the B&O dipped into the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. Brown's men seized an express locomotive right on the B&O bridge, and tragically, the very first casualty of the raid was a railroad porter, mortally wounded in the chaos. That skirmish was just a bloody preview of the violence that would consume the B&O over the next 6 years. Because the B&O ran east to west right through the heavily contested borderlands, both the Union and the Confederacy claimed it as their own. To the north, it was the fastest way to move troops and supplies in and out of Washington, D.C. To the south, it was a massive vulnerability they could exploit. The B&O was directly involved in an astonishing 143 raids, skirmishes, and battles, according to a couple of sources I found online, and the destruction started almost immediately, even after 1859. On April 18, 1861, Union forces deliberately severed the line at Harpers Ferry before retreating, but it was Confederate Colonel Thomas J. Jackson, who was soon to be known as Stonewall Jackson, truly laid waste to the railroad. That spring, Jackson's forces dismantled the B&O in the Shenandoah Valley. They burned 23 bridges, tore up over 36 miles of track, and captured or burned 56 locomotives and nearly 400 rail cars. The damage was almost catastrophic for the B&O, but they kept the locomotives going, and the railroad continued serving the war effort in any way it could. Even after the tracks in the Shenandoah Valley were finally restored in March of 1862, the B&O required constant garrisoning by Union troops just to keep the trains moving. Confederate raiders like the infamous Lieutenant Colonel John Singleton Mosby turned hitting the B&O into a deadly art form, constantly harassing the line and destroying supply cars during the second half of the war. The railroad's crowning moment of strategic brilliance, though, came in the summer of 1864. You see, John Garrett, who was the president of the B&O, he used his network of railroad workers to gather critical intelligence on Confederate General Jubal Early's army, which was secretly marching toward Washington, D.C. Garrett relayed this information directly to Union command, which led to the Battle of Monocacy, which, although it was a tactical defeat for the Union, it delayed Jubal Early just long enough for reinforcements to arrive and save the United States Capitol. President Abraham Lincoln was so grateful for Garrett's intelligence and logistics that he personally dubbed him the right arm of the federal government. Against impossible odds, constant raiding, and twisted rails, the B&O ushered the United States into a new industrial age of warfare. Now, while this video was a general overview of the B&O during the war, there are many stories of heroic actions on the railroad that kept the Union war machine moving and able to eventually end the American Civil War in 1865. Eventually, on this channel, I would like to talk a little bit more about how the B&O assisted in key campaigns, such as the Antietam campaign, and honestly, mainly Gettysburg. The B&O did play a part in that, before, during, and after the battle. And then, of course, the Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln going there. Such a huge role the B&O played in. It's one of those, you can't quite cover it, in a video without it being like 30 minutes to an hour long. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, drop a comment below. If you would like to see more videos like this talking about pretty much the pre-1900s railroad history of America, let me know. This is, in my opinion, this is a time period in railroad history that is not not often covered, and I would really like to shine a spotlight on some of these railroads, some of the stories, and just the role that they played in making America and railroading, what it eventually became and what it is today.